Hey guys, it's late afternoon and the bombshell has just dropped. Yeah, our worst fears confirmed. Uh, what I really thought was going to be a possibility, but I couldn't actually see it happening, and it's happened. Um, I'm trying to think of the words that I need to use here. I'm livid, disgusted. There's so many emotions going through me at the moment. I don't understand. I don't see how they can come to this conclusion. I've got a theory, but it's not a great one. And all sorts of logic just goes out the window. Jan Hendrik Wessels has been ban has been upheld. The disciplinary has rejected the Bulls' appeal, and we'll go through now what they've sent to us. Um, but it's absolutely gobsmacking. It was gobsmacking that they got to this point in the beginning. It was gobsmacking that we actually got a ban without any video of evidence on the accusation of one player. And the can of worms that's open now is just rather, I'm not going to say ridiculous, it's actually going to cost rugby so badly. The precedent that has been set. Now, I know it's not URC's fault that this is an independent disciplinary committee, but it really feels at this moment that we back to the stages in the late 90s in the Sanzar disciplinary committee. Those people who are old enough to remember those things, those travesties we used to have in those ones, where there were memos flying around between people in Australia and New Zealand talking about how they're going to do the Yarpies in. I've never been one for conspiracy theories, but geez, I just think this is such a travesty of justice. And I think Jan Hendrik Wessels, if I was him, I would talk to lawyers. I would look at going to the Council for Arbitration for Sport. I would look at maybe going for a civil case for loss of income. Um, because the bottom line is now we've got an accusation from a player. There's no evidence. The referee and two assistant referees and the TMO could not find anything. But they've convicted a guy without any evidence on the accusation of another player. Because they say the balance of probabilities says he did it. Never mind that the facts of the case don't add up. Never mind that the citing commissioner, who's also Irish, spoke to one player and not both players afterwards and formed his opinion on one player and supported that player. And because he supported that player, Jan Hendrik Wessels had to defend himself because the rules of the disciplinary say he's got to prove to the committee that the citing commissioner was wrong. In my opinion, the citing commissioner had made up his mind before the time. How is that a fair process? The same player who made the accusation had two red cards hanging over his head. If he had received a third one, he would have received a lengthy ban. He was red carded for punching a guy to the face, which is an automatic red card by World Rugby. But the same disciplinary committee, no independence, the same one that decided his version had more weight than Jan Hendrik Wessels's, also exonerated him from his red card. Now you tell me he didn't have motivation to make sure the disciplinary committee was on his side. He had two red cards hanging over, one for eye gouging and one for a cheap shot where he hit a guy with the elbow in the head. There's another video of mine. You can see the video of the last red card. The whole thing smacks of such unfairness, of I wouldn't even say incompetence. It feels more than that. I know it's dangerous to say that, and I'm not accusing any of the officials of being anything more than doing their jobs, but I think they made up their mind beforehand, and there's no justice being meted out here. We're going to go through it. Let's rather go through the appeal courts thing, because the Bulls went for two different things. Sorry. First, they said that the original panel erred, and they asked for a new trial. This was rejected because the panel said there wasn't extraordinary circumstances for a new trial. Now, I'm not sure what extraordinary circumstances are. It's interesting. I heard this morning the same panel that obviously took Neethling for Shears, gave his the ban, is the panel that did this one. That Neethling for Shear ban, I don't know if you all remember, it was a red card. He went down and the guy he was tackling went low. He went even lower. He had a knee on the ground, and they gave him 5 weeks ban. It was totally ridiculous. He couldn't go down lower. He couldn't do anything more from his side. It was argued, was dismissed by, again, the same panel of the three Welsh, Declan Goodman, the Welsh chairman, and two other Welshmen. And then, on appeal, the appeal chairman, and that one, I've heard this through various sources now, basically said they're not going to take any new evidence in. They're not going to look at anything else. The only thing is the original appeal correct? Now, this is my worry in this case as well. I've seen it before. I was personally there, one of the worst decisions I've ever seen. And because it was a sevens game, probably very little people worried about it. We were in Russia in 2013. South Africa played Scotland. They blanked them. I think it was like 34-0 or something. But in the process, Captain Carl Brown tackled the guy. His arm slipped up, made contact with the guy's head. But yeah, it's normal tackle. It happens in every single game. Guy gets it a bit wrong, etc. The Scottish physio on the side there shouted eye gouging. The referee heard it, put in a report for eye gouging. Carl was called in, and the video evidence, they said, showed eye gouging. I saw the video evidence. I didn't see eye gouging. I saw a tackle that slipped up and contact was made with the face. Maybe it was accidental, maybe not. They found him guilty of eye gouging and banned him for 4 games. In sevens, 4 games, the whole tournament, basically. It's the second day of the tournament. This was after day 1 of the World Cup. Day 2 is the quarterfinals, semifinals. Now, that night they had the appeal. They banned him. They had the disciplinary. The next day they had the appeal at 9:30 in the morning. That was the same time the South Africans had to leave for their match, their quarterfinal match against Fiji. Without their captain, the team sort of reacting to this unjustness, and the panel reduced it. They said yes, they erred, but they reduced it to 2 games. The result was South Africa lost to Fiji in the quarterfinals. Team was livid. Everyone was disappointed. There's depressed. Everything felt really sense of injustice there. There was only a few of us, a handful of us there at the Luzhniki Stadium in Moscow, and I remember talking to somebody from World Rugby that day. And they said to me, you've got to remember World Rugby will never not back its disciplinary panel, whether they're right or wrong. And this was my worry about this disciplinary panel as well, is that for one lawyer to say another lawyer is wrong is something that's not going to happen often. I conveyed this to somebody at the Bulls as well. They said that surely that can't happen. Surely the facts of the case speak for themselves. And I said, well, I hope so, but my worry is that it doesn't, and my worry is that they're going to do this. So they dismissed it. They reduced his ban by 1 week. So he still misses all the Springbok tests. He still misses the Bulls games against Northampton and Bordeaux, 2 very important Champions Cups games for the Bulls. But he's now able to play against the Sharks just before Christmas. I don't know what more there is to say. URC has put out a statement saying the matter is now closed. So everybody must just forget about it. Everybody must just go home. Everybody must just accept it. And they don't actually know the damage they've done, because now any other player, any grey area on the field, a player can accuse another player of there. If it's a hometown player and a hometown citing official, they can accuse them and that player can get banned without any evidence. Never mind that there was precedent in at least 3 other instances where incidents happened where there wasn't video footage, and they all 3 were dismissed because of the lack of video footage. This one's been found guilty with a lack of video footage, with only the player's word to back it up. The citing commissioner says he believes the player. He says he was 20 meters away. There's no ways he was 20 meters away. The nearest stand is 50 meters away, and he says he's got a better line of sight basically than the ref and the 2 assistant refs. I don't know. I must maybe calm down, because I'm really, really, really livid about this stuff. I just can't believe this. Certainly feels like we've gone back in time. It certainly feels like an injustice. It certainly feels like there's only one winner here, and that is Josh Murphy, who got his red card rescinded, who managed to get away with everything that he did, and managed to tarnish another player's career. Young Hendrik Wessels has been branded basically somebody who grabs people by their private parts. This disciplinary record is going to stick with him for the rest of his career. He's 23 years old. He's denied that he does it. Nobody cares in that disciplinary committee that he's denied it. Yeah. And it's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. But let's go through the disciplinary hearing and let's see what URC have said. So this is what we got from the appeal panel here. It says, an independent appeal hearing was held today, Wednesday, October 29. regarding the citing and subsequent suspension of Jan-Hendrik Wessels of the Vodacom Bulls, which resulted in a 9-game ban. An independent appeal panel committee led by Roddy MacDonald, Scotland, as chair, alongside Akil Riadi and Robert Milligan, convened to determine the appeal. The player and the club requested a de novo hearing, which is basically a do-over, a new hearing. However, having regard to the URC's disciplinary rules, the panel considered that there was not exceptional circumstance to allow the request. So that's the first thing. They felt that there was no reason to have a new hearing. Okay. Accordingly, the appeal proceeded on the basis the player and club wished to challenge the decision of the initial hearing and length of the ban. The basis of such an appeal requires an appellant to demonstrate that the first instance disciplinary panel erred in its findings. After reviewing the grounds of appeal and hearing from the player and his club, the appeal committee dismissed the substantive grounds of appeal but reduced the ban by 1 week. The panel did so on the basis that the initial reduction from the low-end entry point of 12 weeks did not take into account an aspect of the player's conduct in the context of the case. Accordingly, the appeal committee determined that 4 weeks should be deducted from the headline entry suspension. It carries on. It says here, the panel did so on the basis that the initial reduction from the low-end entry point of 12 weeks did not take into account an aspect of the player's conduct in the context of the case. Accordingly, the appeal committee determined that 4 weeks should be deducted. The player will now miss 8 games and is free to play from December 20. Due to the unique nature of the case, once the final written report relating to the appeal hearing has been submitted to the URC by the chair, both reports for the initial hearing and the appeal will be made for review. The press release relating to the original citing hearing found, that's just the one that we had in the video the other day. And then in keeping with standard practice, the URC will not be making any comment on the independent disciplinary process and considers the matters closed. So here's the games that there is unavailable. Obviously the other one against the Bulls, against the Warriors. Then obviously Springboks, Japan, France, Italy and Ireland. Then the Bulls against the Lions. Wales against South Africa, and then Bulls against Bordeaux, the big Champions Cup game, and Northampton against Bordeaux, the other big Champions Cup game. That is what they've given us. There's nothing more. We don't know everything. I've spoken to some people at the Bulls. They tell me they tried virtually everything in the hearing, but it was a lost cause from the beginning. And that's where we sit at the moment. Sorry, it's a bit dark around here. My lights in this room aren't great. But that's where we sit at the moment. Unfortunately, that's the ban that Jan-Hendrik Wessels has got. All just leaves extremely bad taste in the mouth. It leaves us with a situation where, unfortunately, any player can now accuse any other player of anything, and there doesn't have to be video evidence. There doesn't have to be evidence. They can accept the word of a player over another player. And it's hard not to see this as a travesty of justice. It's hard not to see it anywhere else. But unfortunately, I had this suspicion that they weren't going to go back on their finding. Because if, as somebody pointed out to me as well, is that if they go back on their finding, it opens up the possibility of second-guessing other findings. And what appeal committee is going to do that? Unfortunately, we all lose in this situation. Jan-Hendrik loses because he's denied everything he's done. If you don't believe him, that's your thing. You can tell me, as one or two people in the comments for the last video told me I'm talking rubbish. So, well, if you can see it, if you could see what they was alleged to have done, I couldn't see it. The referee couldn't see it. 2 assistant referees and the TMO couldn't see it. Strangely enough, a citing commissioner 50 meters away could see it, but one that strangely enough spoke to his countrymen after the game and saw it. This is unfortunately the end of the matter. The Bulls can't really do much. I suppose Jan-Hendrik Wessels could consider a civil case, but there are also pitfalls going down that road, and it could open up another can of worms. But it's hardly satisfying in any way. As with all sort of disciplinary things, you have to accept the thing and you have to move on. But there's no justice done here. There's no satisfactory outcome here. In fact, and you've got to feel that Jan-Hendrik Wessels is the victim. You might not agree with me if you sit up north and you think Josh Murphy's the victim. Maybe Jan-Hendrik Wessels did it. The point is, at the end of the day, there are plenty people in plenty sports who've got away with things that they perhaps did or you think they did. but there's no evidence. And if you're convicting people without evidence, and you're convicting people on the word of other players who have a vested interest in trying to make themselves look better, it leaves terrible taste in the mouth. Anyway, I can go on and on about this. It's not going to really help. It's not going to help Jan-Hendrik Wessels. As somebody said to me tonight, just be happy they didn't increase it, because they could have increased it. They could have taken away that 3-game sort of mitigation that they saw in the first one, and they could have made it 12 weeks. Unfortunately for Jan-Hendrik Wessels, he's going to be branded as a certain type of player now. It counts against him if he's ever in another disciplinary, if he ever has an accidental head knock or anything like that, and he's not a dirty player. But as the disciplinary committee found, they found that a player who's never had a red card before, never been involved in the disciplinary, was guilty, and the player that accused him, who's had 2 red cards hanging over his head and the citing for a third one, was the one to believe. Make that of it what you will. I know what I feel. I think I've been pretty clear about it. Unfortunately, yeah, I think the one lesson in all of this, and I said it earlier today in the video, is you've got to go into these hearings armed to the teeth with a lawyer. You've got to treat everyone like it's your very last court case. You're going to make sure that you're not caught offside. Whether it will help, who knows? You have to take it case by case. But certainly, it's hard not to sit here tonight and believe all the conspiracy theories and believe all the stuff that you read on Twitter that there's bias and things like that. I don't want to. I want to believe that this was a single episode of miscarried justice. It was something that was erred wrongly, and they just didn't want to go back on it. But yeah, we have to move on. So that's it. Give me your take in the comments. Smash that subscribe button. Yeah, it's deeply unsatisfying, but yeah, we've got to move on. Anyway, thanks for watching, and yeah, we'll chat again soon. Cheers.